Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. My name is Courtney. I'm the new education specialist here at the Ocean Research and Conservation Association, or ORCA. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit more about a day in the life of the Indian River Lagoon and Lake Worth Lagoon programs. If you're not familiar with ORCA, we're a nonprofit organization founded in 2005. Our mission statement is essentially that we are dedicated to the protection and restoration of aquatic ecosystems and the species within those ecosystems. We do this through innovative technologies, science-based conservation action, and community education and outreach. We uphold this mission in four major ways. First, through innovative technology. ORCA has real-time water monitoring devices known as Kilroy. We currently have 25 of these stations throughout the Indian River Lagoon, and they're collecting water samples every few minutes, analyzing them in that little box you see housed on the piling, and is then able to transmit that information via satellite so that the public can access the data sets at any time. These devices have been used for the prediction of harmful algal blooms, dropped and dissolved oxygen levels, fish kills, and even being able to document the impacts of hurricanes. We also do this through our applied science research. Under that, we really focus on two major topics, ecotoxicity and One Health. We do this through our citizen science work, where we engage people of all ages, backgrounds, and ethnicities in our applied science research and through our education. And so for our education programs, we work with students of all ages from grade school up to our adult population to better help them understand the impacts affecting the Indian River Lagoon and also how they can be an active participant in helping solve some of those problems. And the program that we're talking about today, A Day in the Life, is this really wonderful intersection between citizen science and education. So A Day in the Life is considered one of our citizen science projects. Again, we have four of those. Just quickly to review in case you're interested. We have our land to sea monitoring, which is primarily our habitat restoration work. We have our pollution mapping citizen science project, which is a seasonal monitoring across the Indian River Lagoon. We have our One Health fish monitoring, which tracks the transfer of toxins and toxicants into fish that are commonly consumed by people and estimate the potential human health risk. And of course, we have A Day in the Life, which is why we're all here today. So what is a day in the life? Well, in a nutshell, a day in the life is when schools, community partners, homeschool co-ops, and even adults are partnered with local environmental organizations. And then together, they'll help collect scientific data at specific sampling locations from Volusia County all the way down to Palm Beach County. And so these teams are going out into the lagoon, they're measuring water quality, water chemistry, they're conducting biological surveys where they're staining and they're documenting what organisms they're seeing in and around their sampling location. They're measuring the physical parameters and also doing a thorough sample site observation and documenting it all along the way. Again, we do this along the entire Indian River Lagoon, and each year we have about 2,000 participants engaged in the project. So this year, A Day in the Life of the Indian River Lagoon is on October 9th, and A Day in the Life of the Lake Worth Lagoon is on October 23rd. So there's a lot of objectives and goals to the program. These are some that I'm just going to quickly read through. So the first is that we want all of our participants to develop a deep appreciation for and knowledge of the Indian River Lagoon. This is incredibly important and valuable, and we want the students to understand why. We want them to understand what the environmental health and stressors are that affect the Indian River Lagoon, and we always want to connect Floridians with nature. We want to prepare our citizen scientists to become environmental stewards of the lagoon and all of our natural resources, and allow the participants to become not only student citizen scientists, but to be actual marine scientists. So when they go out for a day in the life, they're conducting all of the same tests that we do here at ORCA, as well as many other organizations do. So that in of itself is a very valuable goal. At the end of the day, this is a huge collaborative effort where we have multiple schools working with multiple organizations, where we're all coming together to better understand the importance and value of the Indian River Lagoon and Lake Worth Lagoon. This program has been in occurrence since 2018, and over that time, we've had over 9,500 participants engaged. Last year in 2024 was the first time ever a day in the life was affected by a hurricane, so we had to reschedule, but still had over 1,400 participants engaged in the project. But in 2023, we had over 2,000, so that's kind of what we're anticipating for this year. We have over 50 sampling locations that are being monitored all on that same day, and that's in collaboration with over 80 community partners. And I do want to mention that a day in the life is not just for schools and teachers. We also encourage other adults to participate and form their own groups as well. So the way that we structure a day in the life so that it's organized, efficient, and so we're all doing the same things in the same way is through our ADIL educator packet, which is found on our website. If you go to teamorca.org under citizen science, you'll see our day in the life program, and there's a resources tab where you can access this manual. So again, this manual structures the day so that everyone is doing the same thing in the same way. And the way it's organized is dividing our students up into 5 stations. We have a chemical station, a biological, physical, site description, and documentation stations. So I'm going to take a few minutes to go through each of the stations with you. Again, this is just one of the many resources we provide for you. So in addition to the packet, before I go through that, we also have training videos. So if you need a refresher on how to use a refractometer, we have one for that. If you need a refresher on how to measure wind speed and direction, there's a short video on that as well. So we try to provide resources that make this experience as easy as possible for both you and your students and partners. We also provide equipment kits. We assist with any coordination we can. We provide a media kit as we get closer to the event, and there's lots of email coordination and contact to make sure we're all on the same page. So getting back to that manual, station number 1 is our water chemistry station. You'll see right away that on the bottom of this slide, it says high priority. So the wonderful thing about a day in the life is that it offers flexibility. So whether your school has 1 hour out in the field or a full day, there's flexibility built into it. But this station, because it's marked high priority, is one that we would want you to focus on first and foremost. This is valuable information that's really going to help us understand whether that sampling site is quote unquote healthy or not. So the way we often suggest that people divide their group for water chemistry is, say you have 10 students in station 1, you could have half of those students doing the tasks under group 1A and the other half doing the tasks under group 1B. So as you can see here, they're measuring temperature, they're measuring salinity, pH, dissolved oxygen, turbidity, and fecal coliform, which is a lot and it's very valuable information. And the other group would be measuring our nutrients, alkalinity, and grabbing a glyphosate water sample. So all of this valuable data we want you to prioritize. If you only have limited time, this is definitely one of the stations we would want you to focus on and have your students practice multiple times ahead of time. Station number 2 is our biological survey station, and you'll see this also has high priority written. So the idea here is that we're trying to better understand not just what organisms are in your sampling location, but also in the habitat around it. So we request that every group pulls their seine net a minimum of 3 times, and they'll be counting and identifying all of the fish and invertebrates they've collected in those 3 pools in that educator manual. And you're also going to take a moment to document what you're observing in your site. Are you seeing lizards? Are they invasive? Are you seeing ants? Are you seeing birds or manatees or jumping mullet? What are you seeing in and around your location? This is where we're accounting for the biota of our sampling location. And then station number 3 is our physical station. So here students will collect important data, although it's not a high priority. At this station, they'll be measuring the influence in tides, especially if you're near an inlet, you're going to see more of that impact. They're going to be looking at current direction as well as speed, cloud cover, air temperature, wind direction, and wind speed. So this is where we're noting the physical characteristics of our sampling location. Station number 4 is our site description. So this is where we're really using our power of observation to take notice of what we're seeing happen in our sampling site. So in other words, we're addressing if we're seeing any kind of pollution inputs. Is there a pipe nearby that could impact pollution? Are we seeing any pervious surfaces? What kind of activities happening in our sampling location? Are we seeing a lot of dogs being walked, or is it frequented by a lot of people? Is there a bathroom nearby? Basically, we want to note what kind of inputs could be potentially affecting the health of that specific sampling location. We're also taking a moment for our students to draw what our sampling location looks like. This is kind of a good time to settle in, have everyone sketch a nice detailed description of what they're seeing. And last but not least, we're having our teams conduct a sediment core at this station. So oftentimes when we think about the health of the lagoon, we think about the water itself, but the sediments are actually a really good indicator of what the long-term health of that site is as well. So by conducting a sediment core, you can really have those students determine what the sediments are like. Is there life? Is it void of oxygen? Is it covered in muck? And so that's part of the site description as well. Station number 5 is our documentation station. So I really love this station, although some people choose to forego this station. Again, that's because there's flexibility built into a day in the life. But the idea behind this station is that students are doing just that. They're documenting through film and video what's happening on that day. They're taking photos of their fellow citizen scientists. They're capturing images of the animals being collected in the seine nets. They might be interviewing their environmental partner, asking them things like, why are you here today? What do you do for a job? Or what type of research do you conduct as part of your position? And some really lovely things have been created out of this documentation station. We've had school murals created. We've had groups create documentaries. They've submitted to competitions like Youth Making Ripples. We've had groups make dichotomous keys so that students the following year had field guides. So there's a lot of ways this documentation station can be utilized in really creative and artistic ways. So this is kind of the collective list of measurements that your student citizen scientists will be collecting on that day. So it's no small feat and definitely requires a lot of training. There's an expectation that the teachers will train their students to practice using these tools in the kit that we provide. As part of ORCA, we offer 5 free lessons to those who do participate in a day in the life. And one of those pre-lessons is an opportunity to practice the water quality. Also, I want you guys to note that each station takes roughly 25 minutes to get through. And we certainly don't want to exclude the value of our environmental partners. So there's always ways to make a day in the life more personalized. One of the ways we encourage you to do that is by incorporating your partner's research. So you're going to have the chance to work alongside some really incredibly talented professionals in our field. So I would make sure to give them a platform to share with your students what they do, whether they're studying mangrove restoration, sea turtle research, or fisheries ecology. It gives the chance for students to learn about different careers in the science field if that's something they may be interested in pursuing. It's a nice extension opportunity where you could build in a 6th station or ask the partner to present at the beginning, however you guys want to do it. But we can also build in additional citizen science projects. So if you're an environmental partner and you think it could be helpful to have each one of these groups from Palm Beach to Volusia collect a water sample for you because you're conducting research, we'd be happy to incorporate that in the program as well. One year we actually collected water samples for FIT because they were doing a study on environmental DNA in bull sharks. Another extension opportunity is through stewardship. This is something we encourage for larger groups, such as over 75 students. Sometimes it's nice to be able to cut those groups in half, having one group do a cleanup or a marine debris survey, while the other group does a day in the life. And then they could take a break, have snack or lunch, and then switch. These smaller group sizes can sometimes make the day a little more manageable. So then what do you do with the information you collect? After a day in the life, you're requested to submit your data to us because we want to compile it and distribute it so that it's usable by other teachers or stakeholders or whoever may be interested. So there are lots of things you can do with a day in the life data other than just kind of graphing it here. Some of the extension use has been students using it for science fairs or research projects. Again, they can create those documentaries. They can participate in ORCA's Data Jam, which occurs in May. That's when we provide a data set from each of our citizen science projects, including a day in the life. And then those students are tasked with interpreting that data in the form of artwork. You can also use the data in bigger and bolder ways. So a day in the life data is not just restricted to Florida, it's actually done in other states as well. There's one team up in New York that had their students collect dragonflies, sequence them, and then as a consequence, discovered two new species. So again, you can take a day in the life as it is, or you can build it out to make it as unique or robust as you'd like. So the final part of this presentation is all about logistics. If you're an educator on this webinar, then your roles and responsibilities are as follows. The first is that we want this data that your students are collecting to be as usable and reliable as possible. So with that comes the expectation and promise that you'll practice. Because of this flexibility, you can determine what time of day works best for your groups, what sampling location, how many students you want to bring, and you want to make sure that sample site is safe. What does it mean to be safe? Well, for some groups, that means there's a bathroom. For others, it may mean a spot where the bus can safely pull in and unload, etc. Your job is also to provide student waivers, maintain the appropriate teacher to student ratios, have the appropriate photo releases, and arrange transportation. So a day in the life can take place before, during, or after school. So if transportation is a limit, then it may be a possibility to conduct this after school. We do provide Indian River County Schools a small stipend for busing, and we're trying to expand that to other counties in the future. Finally, there's the expectation that you're going to be a good communicator. The teams that are most successful and have the best day are those who have planned and spoken with their environmental partner multiple times ahead of the A Day in the Life field day. So you want to make sure you're discussing the details of the day, the timing, all that good stuff. You also want to make sure you're reviewing that educator's manual and practicing with your students prior to A Day in the Life and have gone through that equipment bin. So we give you as much as we can, but we also recognize that there are some things you may want to bring from the classroom, like extra pens and pencils, or clipboards, or rubber bands to hold down papers if it's a windy day, a bag for trash, etc. You may want to make sure if you have a partner that can use more sophisticated monitoring equipment other than just the Lamont kit or the calorimeters, that you've communicated that with them and you know you have that option. We highly suggest that someone from your group, either the teacher or environmental partner, is holding the aquatic species collection permit. This just allows you to be able to seine, but when you seine, actually be able to observe and hold those species for an extended period of time. So if you're an educator that envisions having tanks in your classroom or in your school, then you'll want to have this aquatic species collection permit. Most of the environmental partners have them, but I suggest asking them because if not, you'll want to do this prior to A Day in the Life. The next opportunity to get that permit is on September 9th at 6 p.m. if you want to register for that through the Florida Marine Science Educators Association. And then last but not least, we also offer a free field training for teachers and environmental partners, not for the students. And we provide one per county, and we've already done the one for Indian River County. But this is a really good chance for new partners or existing partners that might need a refresher to get their hands on some water quality equipment and actually go seining so that you can easily transfer that knowledge to your students through that experience. So these are the next upcoming field trainings. If you'd like to register for one of them, please send myself or Missy an email as soon as possible so that we can send you the link to register and provide all the information you'll need for that training. If you're an Indian River County partner and you miss the field training, you're more than welcome to register and join us during one of these other trainings. If you're an environmental partner, then your role is similar to the educator in that we want you to help those students collect reliable and usable data. How can you do that? Well, you can communicate with your teacher partner, which one of the stations you feel you'd best be suited. Most of us find ourselves at the biological or chemical stations, given our experience and expertise. So you'll just want to communicate with your teacher to determine how you can be of help. You'll also want to make sure you're sharing. If you have experience with specific sampling sites or you know of a really good one, make sure you share that with your teacher. Or if you have equipment they can use that day or helpful field guides or even volunteers. We have some organizations with a really robust volunteer network. And if it's okay with your teacher, it may be nice to incorporate some of your volunteers this day. It never hurts to have some extra hands. And then you also want to be a good communicator and coordinate with your teacher partners ahead of time, making sure you're all on the same page with timing and rotations. And if you're going to build out a time for the environmental partner to talk about what research they do or anything else. So those are basically the logistics in a nutshell. ORCA's role is to help plan the event, coordinate the event, but also help you along in your journey too. So the next question would be, do you want to participate? If this is something you still want to commit to and give it a go, then please email Missy or myself and let us know that yes, you want to participate. And if you have a site in mind or an environmental partner you've worked with, you can feel free to reach out to them before reaching out to us. Also, let us know if you want to receive our free A Day in the Life curriculum sessions. If so, then you'll want to reach out to me so I can start scheduling those. We can't provide these lessons for everybody, so it's a first come, first serve situation, but they're excellent lessons and I'd love to be able to provide more of them. So please reach out if you're interested in receiving those. I would just like to say thank you to our incredible funders. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to offer this free opportunity to all of you. And if anyone has any questions, I can take those at this time. If not, thank you so much for joining the webinar, and we hope to hear from you.